This amazing story happened to a young woman, Amelia Berger, who lived with her husband, Thomas, in a small mountain village in Switzerland on the edge of the forest. Their house was the farthest from the village center, the last sign of civilization before the endless sea of trees and snow-capped peaks. Amelia was in the last month of her pregnancy. It was her first child, long awaited and much hoped for. She had lost 2 pregnancies early on, and now the couple were afraid to even breathe, lest they scare away the happiness that was finally just around the corner. Thomas served in the army in a special mountain unit that rescued people in extreme situations. His job was dangerous but important, helping people in trouble high in the mountains where normal help was out of reach. His emergency bag was always ready so he could leave at any time, day or night, if he received a call. Amelia remembered how they had met 5 years ago. She got lost while hiking in the mountains, and it was Thomas who found her exhausted and scared after 2 days of searching. Since then, I have vowed never to underestimate the power of nature. But fate had other plans. It was the same this time. The phone rang at 3 a.m. Thomas listened to his interlocutor in silence, nodding his head every now and then as if his interlocutor could see him. A group of tourists were trapped on a mountain pass due to an avalanche and needed urgent assistance. He was very worried about his wife. Their baby was due in 2 weeks, but something told him that nature might change those plans. "I'll call my dad," he said, and quickly packed his bag. "They will come and stay with you until I return." Thomas's parents lived in a neighboring village, about 2 hours away. They were kind, simple people who loved Amelia as their own daughter. But as soon as her husband left, Amelia called his parents and asked them not to come because she was in good health. "That is not necessary, Martha," she told her mother-in-law. "The weather forecast indicates that it will snow heavily. I don't want you to take any risks for me. I still have 2 full weeks to go. Thomas will be back by then." The truth is, Amelia just wanted to be alone. She loved her husband's parents, but now she needed time to think and prepare for the baby's arrival. She also felt strangely anxious because she didn't want to share it with anyone. The next day, just as the weather forecast said, a blizzard came and covered everything in a thick white blanket. Strong winds uprooted several trees and damaged a cell phone tower, disrupting all communications between the village and the outside world. Amelia suddenly felt her first contractions. At first, they were easy and not very painful. In fact, she thought they were just training contractions, but then they became stronger and more regular. She realized with horror that the baby had decided to come early. At this moment, when she was alone and a storm was raging outside, she had a backup plan. There was a paramedic in the neighboring village, Mr. Jenkins, who could help deliver a baby in an emergency. He didn't live very far away. It would only take about 20 minutes to drive to his house. If she leaves the car immediately, she can reach him before the actual contractions start. She put on warm clothes, took a small bag with her most important things, and left the house. The wind instantly struck her with its icy power, throwing sharp icicles at her face. She walked to her car, a small 4-wheel drive Jeep parked in the driveway. I started the car and headed to the road leading to the village. But after less than a mile, the car stopped, and the tank was empty. Amelia banged on the steering wheel in frustration. "Thomas wanted to fill it up yesterday, but he didn't have time," she whispered, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. She had no other choice, so she got out of the car and started walking down the street, hoping to reach the paramedic's house without any problems. But the storm became so strong that she could see nothing but her outstretched hand, and Amelia soon realized with alarm that she was lost. Instead of following the road to the village, she had, without realizing it, turned into the forest path and was now surrounded by trees, tall and unfriendly in the dark of night. Panic rose inside her, but Amelia forced herself to breathe calmly. Panic is the worst advisor in an emergency. Thomas always said that. She decided to find some kind of shelter and wait out the storm and then return the next morning. Even as her contractions intensified, Amelia continued walking through the forest until she saw a strange, dark spot in the white snow. As she got closer, she saw that it was the entrance to a small cave made of tree trunks and fallen rocks. With some effort, she pressed herself in and found that the cave was deep enough to protect her from the wind. It was dark and damp inside, but at least it wasn't as cold as outside. Amelia realized she had to warm up and find a way to start a fire. She was carrying a lighter in her purse, a farewell gift from her father, who had died of lung cancer 3 years earlier. He always used to tell her, "Never leave the house without something to light a fire, my daughter." Now his advice could save her life. I managed to gather some dry sticks deep in the cave and light a small fire. The flame was weak, but it gave her a little warmth and light, which was a great help to her. Suddenly, the contractions became more intense. Amelia realized that labor had already begun, and that her only hope now was herself. She will give birth here, in this cave, alone. "Not now, dear," she whispered, stroking her belly gently. "Just wait a little longer." But the child doesn't seem to want to wait. The contractions were getting stronger, and Amelia realized she had no other choice. She had to prepare for childbirth right here and now. She spread her jacket on the floor and lay down, trying to remember everything she had learned about childbirth. Thomas had her read lots of books and watch videos, just in case the baby arrived early and away from the hospital. Now this knowledge could save her and the baby. After an hour of painful contractions, Amelia heard a strange noise outside. There was no wind or snow. It was the sound of footsteps, many paws carefully stepping through the snow. She held her breath when she saw a large wolf's head appear at the entrance of the cave. Their eyes met, her human brown eyes and the predator's yellow ones. She was a wolf, large, with silver-gray fur. She seemed to be the leader of the pack. Amelia's heart almost stopped with fear. Wolves rarely attack humans, but now they are weak, helpless, and losing blood. The perfect prey. Behind the she-wolf, she could see more glowing eyes. The whole pack was there. The wolf took a step forward, and in desperation, Amelia grabbed a burning stick from the fire, ready to defend herself. But instead of attacking, the wolf stopped and lowered its head as if studying the human in front of it. Time seems to have stopped. Then something incredible happened. The she-wolf slowly walked over to Amelia and lay down beside her, her warm body almost touching Amelia's trembling body. The remaining wolves followed their leader and entered the cave as well. They settled around Amelia, forming a living circle of warm bodies. Her presence strangely calmed her, and the fear began to fade away. The wolf kept looking at her, and Amelia thought she saw understanding in those yellow eyes, as if this wild animal somehow sensed what she was going through. The new contraction caused Amelia to crumple in pain. The wolf suddenly stood up, came closer, and sniffed her belly. Then something happened that Amelia couldn't expect or explain. The she-wolf began licking her hands, as if to comfort and offer support. The work continued throughout the night. The firewood was running low, and Amelia was worried that she and her baby would freeze to death. But the wolves seemed to understand her fear. Some of them came out of the cave and soon returned carrying small bundles of dry sticks in their mouths, which they placed near the dying fire. Amelia laboriously added sticks to the fire, and the flames ignited again, filling the cave with warmth and light. As dawn approached, the contractions became almost constant. Amelia felt that the baby would be born soon. She prepared for one last push when the ground beneath her suddenly began to shake, rocks and snow falling from above. One of the large stones supporting the cave's ceiling began to move. The ground beneath him, softened by the heat of the fire, could no longer support his weight. The next moment the ceiling will collapse, burying Amelia and the wolves. The group leader immediately realized the danger. He jumped up and howled loudly. At this signal, the wolves began to come out of the cave. Amelia tried to get up, but another contraction forced her to fall to the floor. Finally, the big stone broke apart and began to fall. At the last second, the she-wolf leapt forward and pushed Amelia aside, towards the cave entrance. The stone hit the spot where the woman had just been lying, and the cave was filled with dust and small debris. Amelia found herself outside, lying in the snow, surrounded by wolves. The storm had now subsided, and the sky was beginning to lighten, and dawn was approaching. But she didn't have time to enjoy the beauty of nature. With the next contraction, she felt that the baby had begun to come. The wolf lay down beside her again, and the other wolves formed a circle as if protecting her from an unseen danger. When the baby was finally born, it was the she-wolf who approached the newborn first. Amelia watched anxiously as the animal moved towards her child, but the wolf simply and gently bit the umbilical cord and began licking the baby, cleaning it of blood and fluids, just as she did with her pup. With trembling hands, Amelia picked up the baby, a small girl with a few wisps of dark hair, and held her to her chest. The baby was crying, and it was the most beautiful sound Amelia had ever heard. At sunrise, Amelia sat with her back against a tree trunk, her baby in her arms. The wolves were still close by, guarding the young mother and her child. The wolf was close by, and Amelia gently reached out and placed her hand on the animal's head. The wolf didn't back down, but leaned into Amelia's hand like a dog begging for affection. Their eyes met again, and Amelia felt that the wolf's eyes were smiling. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for saving us." At that moment, the sound of an engine came from the edge of the forest. The wolves became alert, but did not flee. A minute later, a military jeep entered the area, and a man in military uniform jumped out. Thomas was. When he saw his wife surrounded by wolves, he froze and could not believe what he was seeing. His hand instinctively reached for his gun. "Thomas, no!" Amelia screamed. "You saved us! You helped me give birth!" Thomas slowly lowered his hand, still trying to understand what was happening. He took a step forward, and the wolves moved aside to allow him passage to his wife and child. He knelt beside Amelia and looked at his newborn daughter in awe. "It's beautiful," he whispered then. He looked at the wolf who was still lying near Amelia. "And you, did you protect her?" The wolf didn't move, but held the man's gaze calmly. There was no fear or threat in her eyes, just a quiet confidence. Suddenly, another animal came out of the forest, a huge, hungry bear, which had probably been awakened early from its hibernation by the cave collapse. He rose to his hind legs, clearly attracted to the scent of blood. Thomas reached for his gun, but didn't have time to draw it. The wolf pounced on the bear immediately, followed by the whole pack. A brutal battle began. Fur flew in all directions, and the air was filled with roars and howls. The bear was strong, but he didn't stand a chance against the whole group. Wounded and scared, he finally gave up and disappeared into the forest. But victory came at a high price. The wolf was seriously injured. Blood stained the snow around them a bright red. Thomas carefully handed Amelia and the baby over to the doctors from his unit who had just arrived. Then he walked over to the injured wolf. The other wolves watched him carefully, but did not attack, as if they understood that this man meant no harm to their pack leader. Thomas took off his jacket and wrapped the wolf gently in it. She didn't resist. Maybe she was too weak, or maybe she trusted him somehow. "I know a good vet," he told Amelia. "We can help her." As they left the clearing, Amelia and the baby in an ambulance, and Thomas and the wolf in another car, the remaining wolves stood at the edge of the woods and watched them leave. Her eyes shone like tiny gold coins in the morning light. A year has passed. Amelia sat on the porch of her new suburban home, watching her daughter Luna play in the garden. The silver-gray wolf lay beside the child and carefully watched every move the little girl made. After the events in the forest, they were unable to release the wolf back into the wild. Her injury was very severe, and even after she recovered, she remained lame. Moreover, the herd had gone far into the mountains without her, and there was no way to find her. So the wolf stayed with them, not quite wild anymore, but not quite domesticated either. She never showed any aggression towards people and lovingly protected little Luna as if she were her own puppy. Sometimes she would leave at night and disappear into the forest for a few days, but she always came back to the girl she had brought into the world on that terrible snowy night. When the villagers heard the story, they didn't believe it at first. But over time, the unusual relationship between the woman, the child, and the wild animal became known outside their village and attracted the attention of curious travelers. Amelia often thought about that night and the strange relationship that had developed between her and the wild animal. Two nations, one human, the other animal, found a common language without words and understood each other on a level beyond normal comprehension. Sometimes, when Luna was asleep and the wolf was lying next to her bed, Amelia would sit beside her and gently stroke the silver fur. She felt that she could see in the yellow eyes of the animal an understanding and wisdom that humans did not possess. I thought we might not be so different from the wild things that inhabit this world. There is an ancient instinct within all of us, as old as the earth itself, to protect our children at all costs. It was this instinct that created the amazing bond between woman and wolf on that cold winter night when little Luna was born. Sometimes, when the moon is full, the she-wolf comes out into the yard, raises her head to the sky, and lets out a long, mournful howl. And far away, deep in the forest, other wolves answered, their old pack, remembering and missing their leader. Amelia knew that one day, when Luna grew up and the wolf felt her mission was complete, she would return to her own kind. But until that day comes, she will stay close and protect the little girl with dark hair and bright eyes who came into the world on a snowy night, protected by a pack of wolves.